So, hey, YouTube audience or audience in general. Uh, so, for my second video, as I promised earlier in my first video, I am gonna be uploading very soon. So, yeah, I believe I'm gonna title the video as just as teenage turmoil, or I might add a few description as well, or I might just add a few things in the description section. uh, Teenage turmoil. So, a little backstory, a little context about this video. I first and foremost, I'm trying and I'm gonna do my best to wrap this whole thing under 30 minutes or 30 minutes max. And the audio might be a bit distorted because I have the fan on as well. I have the fan on as well, but yeah, I'm gonna try my best to be as clear and as concise and my narration to be as engaging and as immersive as it possibly can be. So, moving on from that, I so the name of my YouTube channel, at least right now, it's Shujat. It's my name. It's literally my name. I couldn't think of a better, unique, creative name than that. So, yeah. I I turned 20 a few days back, like on 4th April. So, yeah, 4th April 2023. And yeah, the main thing regarding that birthday was my 20th birthday was I'm no longer going to be a teenager. I'm past that teenage phase, like 13 to 19, that age time frame or age bracket. I'm past that. So yeah, no longer a teenager anymore, not a teenager anymore, and that was a big deal for me. I had a lot of dreams. I had a lot of things I wanted to do, a lot of hopes, aspirations, goals that I wanted to hit, but I couldn't or I didn't. I am not gonna blame anyone or anything. I just couldn't due to my own, misdoings, and I'm not gonna make any excuses. It's all falls down on me. So, one of those dreams was I had an idea floating around in my head, in my mind, regarding writing possibly a book or a full fledged novel, or more, even better, directing a film or making a film, a short film, or even a full feature length film regarding this topic. And if possible, if things line up for me and I'm still interested, I shouldn't say this, but if I'm still interested, I might possibly do this later down the line. But for now, I just wanted to get this off of my head and put it out there. So, as I said, I've initially wanted it to be a book or for it to be a film, but I neither have the time, energy, nor more importantly, the resources required to, do that and turn this idea in my head into fruition. So, the best thing I have right now is an iPad and the platform of YouTube. So, yeah. And I couldn't really hold this idea in myself anymore. So, that's another reason I'm recording this and gonna be uploading it. And I don't really care if this idea gets copied or not, or if some other person cashes it on it. I'm like sounding like this it's $1 million idea, but It's a story, a fictional story, if I might add. It's a story that really means a lot to me, and I really want to share. So, as I said, it's a fictional story. I mean, full disclaimer: any resemblance to anyone real is purely coincidental, purely unintentional. And yeah, I just wanna be heard, I guess. I just want, more than me, I just want this story of mine to be heard. And if not even heard, I mean, it will, this fact that I even put it out there on a public platform, on a public forum, it will give me a lot of solace, a lot of satisfaction, a lot of fulfillment. I mean, a lot of contentment and peace, even peace. So yeah, enough with the backstory of myself and this video. Let's just move on and dive. I mean, quite ironic that I'm saying this, but let's just dive straight into this story. Considering the reason I'm saying it's ironic is considering the fact I just, took a lot of time to explain a bunch of irrelevant, useless stuff to the story. But yeah, so the story is inspired by my life and some of the things that I've seen happen to other people, my teenage mates, acquaintances, I mean friends even. Friends is a loose term, but conventionally speaking, let's just say friends and the people that I observed in real life close to me. By close to me, I mean in school, college, and university, and in my town and wherever. I am from Pakistan. It's a country in Asia, right next to India. I mean, I just wanted to say that. So, yeah. The story I titled Teenage Turmoil. I wanted to title it Teenage Chaos or Teenage Troubles or Teenage Adventures, but I settled with the name of Teenage Turmoil, and I hope it makes sense by the title makes sense by the end of this narration of the story and by the end of this video. So, yes, I really haven't written it down. I've just like imagined it, fantasized about it. I just wrote a rough outline in my head, not even on a paper, in my head before recording this video. And apologies if I might stutter or not be as coherent as I should be, but I'm gonna be as coherent and as um, engaging and immersive as I possibly can. So the story is revolving around four teenagers in their high school. And high school as in, let's just say they're uh, 17, 18-year olds, like at the tail end of their teenage chapter of their lives. And all four of them were friends from kindergarten. They live pretty close to each other. They, went to the same school, live in the same town, and later on went to the same, middle school, and now in going to the same high school as well. All four of them were close, not too close, but they were, in the eyes of the people at least, friends. And they didn't used to hang out or talk to each other each and every day, but they were there for each other. But as I'm pretty sure we have all experienced that with the hectic routines and the busy schedules and all the things happening around the world, like it does divert us away from our friends. It does, you know, uh, it does affects the relationship in a negative or a positive way. Depends on your guys' interpretation. But they used to. I mean, again, apologies, but uh, they, yeah, they were close, not too close. Yeah, basically, they were pretty average friends, let's just say. Uh, and one of them, I'm not even gonna name them. I'm just gonna say character A, B, C, and D, the four of them. And yeah, all four of them I'm gonna be referring to as alphabets A, B, and C, D, respectively, for 1, 2, 3, and 4. Because, truth be spoken, I haven't really thought of the characters' names yet. So yeah, let's just say that. So the character D, the fourth person, the fourth friend, he suddenly gets a pretty tragic news that he's suffering from fourth stage. I mean, I'm not sure, I'm not a med student. From a terminal cancer, from a terminal thyroid cancer, let's just say. I mean, I recently just finished The Midnight Club, a show on Netflix. So yeah, if you know, you know. So the guy is suffering from uh, cancer, terminal cancer, and he only has a few months left to live. And the personality or the characteristics, the traits of the fifth, I'm saying fifth, of the fourth character, as in the D character, he's pretty shy, reserved, introverted, and keeps to himself. He doesn't go a lot, or he doesn't go out a lot, doesn't really interact, and doesn't go to parties. He just keeps to himself. And yeah, he doesn't really have any close friends even. And when he gets this news, he obviously gets shocked. He feels really sad and pity for himself. And he even, gets depressed moderately. And for the sake of the story, and he obviously suffered a tragic event. Traumatic is going to be a key recurring word. It's basically the overlaying theme of the story. So he he obviously gets a lot of consolation, a lot of condolences, a lot of, I mean, condolences is, I guess, the wrong word to use, but for the lack of a better word, condolences, and from friends and family, from his parents especially. And he still decides to pursue and continue high school, even though he knows deep down he only has a few months to live, and the chances for survival and the treatment being successful are pretty thin and slim. But yet he has a glimmer of hope in his heart, and yeah, some form of faith or fate in the universe to heal him of his misery. I mean, by healing him of his misery doesn't mean death, but getting rid of his cancer, terminal cancer. So all four of them weren't really a friend group, weren't really a gang, or weren't really, I mean, the four horsemen or anything, but they used to have an on and off, on again thing, where they used to hang out with each other, the four of them. They for a few grades, for a few weeks, and as life does, they got drifted apart due to their own individual differences, and not in a bad way. It's just that they got busy with their own routines, individual routines, and yeah, they made new friends and got busy in their own individual lives and drifted apart essentially. But when this news broke out in the high school of the D character suffering from terminal cancer, the three of them, A, B, and C, decide to be there for him. And one more thing, not being a sexist, but for the sake of the story, all four of them are males. All four of them are boys. So yeah, I'm gonna be referring them as him, the characters, I mean. So, and this story mostly revolves around these four characters and their own individual traumatic events that occurred with each one of them in their childhood, in their adolescence, growing up. And not for all four of them, except for the D character, fourth one, all the first three characters, and the traumatic events, the traumatic things that had happened to the three of them, and they had kept it a secret from everyone, even their parents, not even told a single person about what happened to them. And due to which all three of them had certain toxic traits when they grew up. And yeah, as every traumatic thing does to a person, it had its toll on them as well. So as I was saying, the three of them, A, B, and C, decide to be there for D, and they decide to get the group back together, to get the gang together, and put their individual differences and put their individual grudges aside for the time being. And yeah, for D, and D really appreciates it. It really means a lot to D. It really means the world to D, because D, deep down, even though he's shy, introverted, reserved, not really shows his emotions, but this time he really does. And because the three of them, as I mentioned, were sort of friends from childhood, so D does really appreciate them being around, and the three of them really do mean a lot to D. And yeah, the four of them hang out, spend time together, converse with each other, have long conversations, and yeah, it's really going good for the time being. But as much as they want to, they can't really put their own individuality aside, and the hidden trauma does creep up, does show up among the three. And let's just say A was a victim of growing up in a dysfunctional family. His parents in his childhood used to fight a lot, had a lot of quarrels. Maybe even sometimes physical fights might have even broken out. And due to which he is pretty aggressive, and he does really likes to be the alpha male, really likes to be in the control of the situation, and doesn't really like to be doesn't really likes to take a back seat. And even when a slight chance of confrontation arises, he doesn't run away, and does more than what needs to be done, and takes tenfold of revenge that he should, if it makes any sense. So that's A, and let's just say that his mother and his father, the mother and father, the parents of A, divorced when he was, I guess, 12 or 13, and he has been living with his uh, father ever since. And his mother left away, abandoned him, even though she really didn't want her to. But A believes that, you know, his mother didn't really love him enough to stay with his father and stay with him for his happiness, and this has been haunting A ever since. And A hasn't really, obviously, almost everyone knows close to A, and the other three, B, C, and D, obviously know about this tragedy. But A hasn't really spoken to anyone, even the three, about this in grave detail. And yeah, so that's the backstory of A, the traumatic backstory of A. And moving on to B, uh, B was a victim of, it's a strong word, but rape. And obviously, I'm gonna make this video age restricted. It's only for, I mean, my target audience for this story is mostly teenagers. Even those teenagers who, aren't 13, 14, but like 16, 17. But yeah, and I know, I'm pretty sure everyone will find something fulfilling or something meaningful. Yeah, meaningful is the right word. Something meaningful in the story of every ethnicity, a person of every color, a person of every age, of every culture, because trauma is something that, every human being has gone through, more or less, in some capacity, in some way, shape, or form. And yeah, I'm pretty sure this story is something that almost, not even almost, every human being can relate to on some level. So yeah, so B was a victim of rape, and he got raped by his neighbor. He got raped by his neighbor, and he has, keeping it quiet and hasn't revealed it to anyone, and he has kept it to himself. And he got raped by a male that was older than him, not by much, but still he was, let's just say, 10 years older than him. So he hasn't revealed this to anyone. He has only kept this to himself, and he even has gotten to the point of forgetting it and almost forgetting about it. But the tragedy that happened to D does bring up those haunting, dreadful memories. They really, come up in his mind a lot now, more than ever. So and let's just say, for the sake of the story, the neighbor had shifted. I mean, this whole thing, the rape thing, happened for a week, and the guy, the rapist, had left the neighborhood and moved to a new town. Let's just say 2 years, after 2 years, and the B character hasn't seen him ever since, but those memories still haunt him and are still alive, especially with, what happened to D. They really are alive now more than ever. So that's the tragedy of B. Now moving on to C. The backstory of C is that he was extremely bullied by his class fellows, and one in particular used to beat him up after 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 the classes had finished and everyone was free and the school was off. So yeah, right after school had ended, the C character was beaten up a lot. Let's just say it happened in his 7th grade, and during the 7th grade, the four of them were pretty were the 7th grade was the time, since in this story all four of them, A, B, C, and D, are age fellows, and uh, are on the same grade at the same grade. So during the 6th grade, the four of them, the differences arised and life happened and they drifted apart, and they moved to new sections within the same campus, within the same facility, but they that was the time, 6th grade was the time they really weren't a friend group anymore. They became more of acquaintances. And during the 7th grade, in the 7th grade, this happened, the bullying happened, and the guy was extremely bad to him. The guy used to say mean, disgusting words to him, and the C character wasn't really able to stand up for himself, defend himself, and yeah, he was pretty in a miserable condition, in a very sorry state. And a little, let's just, for the sake of story, I'm gonna explore more of the bullying that happened to C, and sorry if it gets too disturbing and grotesque, but yeah, C was bullied to the point that he wanted to kill himself each and every day in his 7th grade, and he couldn't tell his parents about it, he couldn't tell anyone about it. And same with A and B, they really didn't talk about their traumas with anyone as well. Same with C, he was pretty reserved about this as well, because he was scared to open up and scared to defend himself and scared to fight for himself and stand up for himself. So the C character was bullied by a lot of his classes, by a lot of his classmates. The main bully had a friend group that used to accompany him, and they used to verbally bully him, and the C character visibly was very ashamed and very embarrassed and felt really bad about it. And he had heard a lot of things that still cut through his soul and cut through his heart, that had cut through his soul and cut through his heart. And the C character, the main bully, had many times, many times, countless times, the C character had lost count. The main bully had physically assaulted, physically hurted him, the C character, after classes, after the school had finished, secretly. And the C character used to take the beating silently and used to suffer silently. So yeah, so I explored the personality of A in present time, in the story's present time, about B and C. As B was a victim of rape, he was, unlike A, not very outspoken. He was confident but not too confident. He, unlike A, who was overly confident, B was okay enough, but yeah, let's just say he was a pretty normal kid. Anyone could ever say anything bad happened to him, and he was a pretty normal kid, at least to us as audiences and the other people in the story. And the C character later on developed as a very scared and a very scared kid, teenager. So unlike A, who was overly confident, very outspoken, very out there, unlike B, who was contrary to A, confident, pretty normal, C was totally polar opposite to A. He was not outspoken, he was pretty underconfident, and yeah, he was pretty scared, and anyone and everyone could tell it off of him. But as the bullying wasn't very well known and not even reported, so no one could guess it that the hidden thing was the hidden this personality trait these personality traits developed due to that incident. And about the bullies or the bully, the main bully had shifted sections. He in the eighth grade he had gone to a different section within the same campus, and he had gotten bored of bullying C, and yeah, he didn't picked on C anymore, and yeah, that was the end of that incident. I'm sorry. This I thought this story would wrap up under 30 minutes, but I think it's gonna take way longer than that. So I hope it's. I mean, I'm having a ball narrating this and imagining the whole story within my head. So yeah, just hear it if you wanna hear on. So that's the backstories and the personality traits of all three of the characters, A, B, and C. So D, unlike the three of them, wants to talk about traumas and wants to talk about unconventional, deep, meaningful stuff. Unlike the most friend groups who talk about plutonic, superficial, surface level stuff, the girls that they like, the crushes that they have, the kind of cars they want, or what's happening in sports, movies, art, and celebrity crushes and celebrity breakups and this and that. D wants to talk about deep, meaningful stuff and wants the three of them to talk about their life as well. D wants the three of them to open up as well. The three of them are pretty reluctant at first, but despite their differences, they start opening up, not wanting to talk about their own personal traumas, the traumas that I had mentioned: dysfunctional family and divorce for A, the rape of B, and the bullying for C. But he still knows deep down that they're not telling the whole story. So as days move on, as weeks move on, D knows that his time's approaching, and the chemotherapy isn't working, and the doctor has told them he only has a month to live, or if he's lucky, a month or two to live, but that's that. The three of them, after opening up slightly, do try to process their traumas, individual traumas, but they aren't able to, and they break down silently. They cry in homes at nights, but they still don't have the courage to open up and be vulnerable. One day, when D breaks the story to the three of them, A opens up. Obviously, the three of them are pretty devastated after hearing this, since the three of them had a glimmer of hope as well that D will get cured, but things didn't turn out that way. A, suddenly out of nowhere, it's just the four of them sitting or lying down on ground, or whichever state you want to imagine them in, but all four of them are pretty alone. So A out of nowhere opens up about his story, and he reveals about the dysfunctional family stuff that happened, about his divorce, about the trauma of his mother leaving him. And he's like, I'm not able to hold this anymore, I have to let it out. And C, after getting the courage from after hearing his friend's A's story, and after hearing the tragic news of D, he opens up about his traumas as well, the bully thing. And B, on the other hand, is very silent and reluctant to open up. And when all three of them visibly can see on the face of B that something's not right, something's wrong, he's obviously very visibly very shaky and very fidgety, and he starts breaking down, he starts crying, sobbing, and B gets up and leaves. The next day, as I told, they were living in the same vicinity, not in the same vicinity, in the same town, a few blocks from each other. So B gets in his car, calls the three of them, A, C, and D, and he's like, we're gonna go on a road trip. And the three of them, due to their own reasons, are reluctant to at first, since they have their own things planned out, their own routines. But when B says this thing that he's only gonna open up about his trauma if and only if the three of them get in his car and decide to do what he says, the three of them fully agree and are fully on board. And the three of them go following B's lead. I mean, I just want to remind that B is the only one who hasn't opened up about his trauma yet. So B goes, takes them, like B and C are sitting in the front, A and D are sitting in the back, and they have fun, they are having such a great time together. And the three of them are like, although we are having a good time, we still want to know what's your trauma and what is the thing that you want us to do before revealing us about your trauma. B says that we are gonna process our trauma, that's what we are gonna do. D only has a few days to live, and B says out loud, I can't live with what happened with me without dealing with it. And the three of them really feel happy that B decided to do what he did. And since A and C had revealed what happened to them and who did it, like A about his mother and who had left him, and C about the main bully who physically assaulted him, physically hurted him. B had tracked down their addresses, and they were not living too far from each other from where they were. So they are a bit scared at first, but especially C, but B encourages them and consoles them that all four of them are there for each other, and nothing's gonna go wrong. And this is the day that we finally do it with D, and D is so happy, and all four of them are pretty happy deep down and visibly as well. So yeah, I broke this story into three chapters, three distinct chapters. First one being the tragedy of D and setting up the backstory. The second chapter being the four of them getting back together and opening up. And the third chapter is what I'm narrating right now, them processing their traumas and dealing with it. B takes them. B first and foremost takes the A. Not let's just re-edit it. B first and foremost decides to take up the case of C, who was bullied, because he's the most scared. And B takes him, all four of them, to the house, in front of the house of the main bully of C. And he decides to park his car right in front of his house, and he says, are you ready? And the three of them comply. Yes, they are, even though C, whose trauma is being dealt with at that moment, isn't really ready deep down, but knowing that the three of them are there for C, for him, he decides to muster up the courage and go with them. So they ring the doorbell, and lo and behold, the main bully opens up the door, and he's quite surprised to see them, and obviously he recognizes C. So the three of them leave C to deal with his trauma, and C goes to his home, obviously not in the bravest of state, but he still has enough courage left in the tank and in his heart to confront his bully face to face after so long. And C basically asks him why he did what he did, and the main bully opens up in a quite ironic fashion, since he's grown up as well and matured as well, about his trauma as well, and what made him do what he did. And he had a pretty bad upbringing himself. He had some issues to face himself, due to which he developed as a pretty obnoxious, as a pretty toxic bully, toxic teen in 7th grade. And that's why he did what he did. And the bully really feels sorry and doesn't really feel proud of what he did, and he's deeply regretful and deeply guilty and remorseful of what he did. He apologizes to C. C decides to not punch before. He seeks for his forgiveness, and C, not really feeling in the mood for forgiveness, gets out and calls the three of them and says, this is the situation and how should I deal with it. The three of them are like, if the main bully recognizes his mistake, C is gonna punch him straight in the face. I mean, to make up for, as a revenge for what he did, and he needs to take that punch to make up for his misdoings and wrongdoings. And the three of them are there for each other. They muster up and encourage C. C, being scared, is really hesitant to punch the bully, but the bully is ready to take it, and he's ready to take it. C, the three of them push C and say he deserves it, which he rightfully does. C, in a fit of anger, the harmful memories of what the bully did to C going through his head, he takes his hand out and punches the bully straight in the face, bleeding him in the way. And the bully says, feels good now. Okay, I mean, it's a thing I got inspired from the bully scene in The Amazing Spider-Man. I think it was 1 or 2, where Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man punches the bully, and not punches but confronts the bully, and he's like, it feels good now. So I got inspired from that. So the bully is like, you feel good now. And C, obviously C doesn't says it out loud, but we all can see, and the three of them can see, even the bully can see, he's quite happy that the scores have now been settled. The main bully seeks for his forgiveness again, and this time C forgives him, and the four of them move along their journey. The trauma of C has officially been processed, and it has been undone. he's not a scared kid anymore. They take their sorry, my uh, I'm really out of breath right now. So I'm like straight narrating it without any breaks, continuously, consecutively. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. So after that, after dealing with the trauma of C, uh, after B takes the the three of them, to a house and says, parking his car outside, says, A, it's your time to deal with your trauma. A, quite ironically, being so brave and being so courageous and being so, you know, outspoken, feels really scared this time around. Quite contrary to C, who had been pretty scared, was pretty scared kid, but when B had parked his car outside the main bully of C, C was pretty brave and was pretty courageous. So I hope you can see the dynamic that I'm setting over here. So A is pretty scared, but the three of them, had made a deal, had made a promise, had made a pact. So A reluctantly, pushes the doorbell, and he looks back, and the three of them are sitting in their car. And B says, "It's your trauma to deal with. It's your own personal family trauma to deal with. We can't help you with that. We are here. We are not going anywhere." He says that because of the abandonment issue that A had faced. A rings the door, opens, and again, unlike last time where the main bully had opened the door, this time around a guy had opened the door, and A doesn't really recognize him, but behind the door, behind the guy on the couch, on the TV lounge, is sitting his mother, his biological mother, who had abandoned him. So the guy is like, what do you want? Who are you? And A, without saying a word, sees his mom sitting on the couch. He obviously recognizes him. And the mother says, "Honey, who's there?" When she doesn't get a reply, she looks in the door, and the guy says, "This random teenager." And the mother literally, for the sake of drama, let's just say she was doing some activity. She had a remote in her hand. She literally, the remote gets dropped because she's so shocked and she's so surprised. And the guy was the mother's second husband, his stepfather, if I might say, his stepfather. And his mother does recognize him. And A goes straight into the home and sits beside her mother and asks about why she did what she did. And okay, this scene is somewhat inspired from an Indian movie called Jab Tak Hai Jaan. It stars Shah Rukh Khan, Katrina Kaif. It's directed by Yash Chopra. I mean, it was his last film as a director. And there's this scene of Katrina Kaif confronting his mother, and why she did what she did, because in that film her biological mother had abandoned her as well, and she had to live with her father, and she hadn't seen her mother in a long time. So his mother consoles him and says things weren't really working out and shouldn't have done what she did, but you can see from her face that, and her voice, that she missed him each and every day. And when she said that verbally, A breaking down in tears, unlike his brooding, uh, imitating, imitating, intimidating. Yeah, intimidating is the right word. Intimidating, fearless persona. He breaks down in tears and asks in a jittery voice, "Why, if you missed me each and every day, why didn't you come meet me, talk to me?" Yeah. And mother in a sobbing voice replies, "Because I was afraid to." And yeah, as you can imagine, they hug, they make amends, and A is back and gets out of the home and with tears in his eyes. And all three of them know that A's trauma has been resolved as well. A gets back in his car and they drive away. And the three of them, besides A, C, and D, say to B, "Now it's your time." And B reluctantly opens up about the rape and shares his story. And the three of them are in sudden shock and disbelief. And they cry even. You can see tears in all three of their eyes, even in B's eyes, who's narrating and telling them their trauma, his trauma. And the three of them are like, "How did you keep this hidden for so long, and why did you suffer so much?" B said, "Because I was afraid of so many things." And B, not having the energy, still musters up the energy to drive to park the car in front of his rapist's home. He is in a mixture of emotions. He's feeling angry, vengeful, angry, vengeful, and angry as well, while simultaneously, on the other hand, he's feeling scared, sad, and miserable as well. He's in a mixture and bottle of emotions. But the three of them, again, like what B did to A and C, what B did for A and C, the three of them decide to be there for C, and they're there for B. B musters up the courage to get to his home, the rapist's home, and what happens is the dad of the rapist opens up the door, and B is scared yet confident. He's unlike A and C. A, who was very outspoken, confident. C, who was very shy, scared. B is feeling a mixture of all those things. So B says in a firm voice, "Where's your son?" He's like, "He's upstairs." And B replies, "Call him down right now," in a very intimidating manner. What the three of them didn't knew, what we didn't knew as audience, is that he had a baseball bat or a cricket bat, I would say, for the Asian subcontinental demographic, or baseball bat for those people who know about baseball and don't know about cricket. But let's just say he had a baseball bat hidden in his jacket. And when the rapist, the son of the guy who opened the door, comes downstairs, he gets really scared. And B, obviously, when he was raped, he was really little, wasn't able to stand up for himself. He says, like, I'm here to get you. I'm gonna kill you. And he's really lost it. He's really lost all the peace and all the forgiveness and all the humanity within him, and he just wants to take out his revenge. And when he takes out the baseball bat, the three of them, who obviously were blindfolded, who didn't knew about it, they barge in the door as well, and they try to stop him, but at the same time they want him to take out his revenge. When the guy comes downstairs, he knows he has no other option but to surrender. He takes a vicious beating. B, again, excuse my language, beats the shit out of the rapist in front of his dad when the dad tries to save him. He breaks down in tears, but B beats up his dad as well, which the three of them, even though they don't want to, they have to watch. They do say, don't hit his dad at least, or go somewhat easy on the rapist, but B has officially lost it. He bleeds him, and he really beats the shit out of him, and to the point that he's bleeding. What happens is, from another room on downstairs, his mom comes and starts crying, breaking down in tears, and she cannot really hold it, and she is sobbing like anyone has ever sobbed, and crying to the point that her vision is blurry. And B, after beating the rapist and feeling some sort of peace in his heart, decides to, feeling light in his heart, having some form of peace in his mind, steps back, and the mom is like, just hear me out for a minute. My son had revealed what he did to you to me just a long time back, and he has been the most guilt-ridden person that anyone has ever been. He has been to therapy. He has lost interest in everything and anything. And the dad is really shocked to hear this, because the mom had decided to keep it a secret, because she knew obviously the dad would take some action and would be really angry. And seeing this, seeing the sight of the rapist's mother grabbing him and holding him, hugging him, the rapist, and the dad crying, barely standing, the rapist on the floor bleeding and barely breathing. Bleeding and barely breathing. Wow, that's a sentence. And the rapist's mother, consoling the rapist and really losing herself, consoling her son and consoling the B character who was raped as well. Simultaneously, and seeing the sight, the three of them are like, I guess your trauma has been processed as well. And B does feel that even though he wants to kill him, but he decides to step back, and he's like, let him live the rest of his life with the same guilt and regret, and let him live this way. He decides to spare his life, the rapist's life, and B decides to leave, leaving the family in their misery, but at least sparing his life. The four of them sit in their car, and B, unlike previously, he is full of energy now, and now officially all the trauma has been dealt of A, B, as well as C. And D is the happiest he's ever been in his life, and the four of them decide to have some dinner, since all of this processing of trauma took a whole day of their took a whole day. So since they had been gone out since morning, so all four of them are feeling peace and happy and fulfillment, contentment, satisfaction, and they're really happy in their heart. And the four of them decide to go and have some dinner and live the rest of their lives, the life that they have, fully, totally, not being guilt-ridden with something that they shouldn't blame themselves for, and they had no wrong in doing or suffering from that. They are officially, totally, fully over their sufferings. They have overcome it. They have gone past their traumas, and all four of them, all three of them, if I should say, A, B, and C, have decided to leave the past in the past, having dealt with it and closing their chapters and living life with a new spirit and living life differently, happily, peacefully. And the last scene is the four of them happy with each other in the car, with B driving them to a spot to have some dinner. And we see a last shot is literally sunset, a beautiful, beautiful sunset. Because that's the thing about sunsets, right? That sunsets are a proof that endings can be beautiful too. So yeah, that was my story, and obviously bits and pieces of it had been inspired from my observations of real life people. No one character is really totally ripped off of a guy, no. So I strictly say it's a non-fictional story. And like I had cited the example of Amazing Spider-Man 2 and Jab Tak Hai Jaan, some things have been inspired by some fictional stuff that I had consumed as well. So yeah, that's the thing about trauma, right? I had gratefully, thankfully decided to tackle with my own personal traumas as well. I'm talking about myself, Shujat Adil. And thankfully in my teenage years, before I turned 20. And that's the thing I wanna leave this video on, that you shouldn't really suffer for something that you had no hand in doing. Because there are only two types of traumas: the things that other people do to you, what had happened to A, B, and C, and the thing that nature does to you, the universe does to you, what happened to D. And you can't really control the two of them, other people as well as nature/universe. And you shouldn't really have to suffer in silence. And sometimes forgiveness is not the right way to move forward. Damn, at this point I'm not even sure what I'm saying. But yeah, so I said 30 minutes, so it's over 1 hour. But yeah, there should be nothing and no one. I mean, that's the one thing I've learned from my 20 years over here on this rocky green planet Earth. That's the crux of my 20 years of life that I've lived. From all the things I've experienced, from all the things I've gathered, from all the knowledge, information I've consumed, down to every single second I've spent. You shouldn't suffer and there should be nothing and no one, absolutely no one and nothing that stops you from living your life totally and fully. I don't want you guys to get the wrong message over here. I mean, it doesn't mean that you go out and do whatever the hell you want and causing other people trauma and causing nature trauma, hurting other people and hurting nature. But neither should the vice versa case happen as well. It shouldn't happen the other way around as well. So as long as it's legal, I mean, long story short, in a nutshell, legally and to some point, and I'm saying to some point because it's totally subjective, but there's some form of objectivity to it. Ethically, morally, virtuously, virtue is a pretty good word. Virtuously, rightfully, truthfully, live your lives and don't let anyone and anything stop you doing it. Because, yeah, that's what being a human being is. And yeah, that's my story. And a totally original story made by me. I'm not even sure. I won't be surprised if, I come across a story, similar story that had been written 20, 30 years ago, 40, 50 years ago. But, as far as I'm concerned, it's something that I had thought about roughly long time back, a few years back, I guess when I was 16 or 17, even 15, I would say. So now, after so many years, having gone past my teenage phase, closing my teenage chapter, turning 20, being a young adult, I just wanted to say this, that don't let anyone and anything stop you from living your full life. And, in the same sentence, I would say don't hurt other people as well, or don't hurt nature as well. It's there are some things that are your responsibility, and there are some things that are outside of your control. It's a Stoic way of saying this. If you know the philosophy of Stoicism, you should be able to defend yourself and never feel scared, never for a second, even 1% feel scared for standing up for yourself, and live your lives totally, fully, virtuously, and don't let anyone or anything stop you doing it. So that was it. Took a long time, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's hardly I'm gonna get 5-6 views, but that's not what I'm concerned about. I had an awesome time recording this. I'm a person who believes firmly that enjoy the journey, not the destination. And if you're good enough, or if you're fortunate enough, if you're lucky enough, I mean, luck is a word I don't really like, but let's just say if you're fortunate enough, success, materialistic success, views, subscribers, money, fame, notoriety, achievements, accomplishments, it's gonna be a byproduct of it. A person who loves walking will walk further than one who just loves the destination. It's a quote I saw on Instagram. So yeah, I don't really care if I get any views, or if I get any, if I get anything from it. If there's even a 1%, and I mean even 1% who enjoyed it, who found it meaningful, who got some form of useful thing, extracted some useful thing, learned a lesson from watching this video, or found enjoyment in listening to my story, that's more than anything I could ever ask for. So, and even if there's not even 1%, I had awesome time recording this myself. So yeah, and I'm feeling really content, satisfied, and fulfilled within that, I did what I did. So yeah, now it's time to upload, and take care, people.